Are you considering moving to London and you want to know how expensive it is? Well, this is the right video for you. We will take you through all the expenses which we incur in our day-to-day life and we calculate on a monthly basis. So we will give you all this information. Plus, I'm gonna give you my budget sheet. With this sheet, you can plan your expenses, you can plan your savings, you can plan your investment, etc. So once you get paid, you have everything taken care of. Who says living in London is expensive? Well, I say it, but I plan for it.
Everyone says it.
But I plan for it, guys, and that's what you need to do as well. We have gathered all this data from the past 6 months of our living in London. Before that, we were living in Germany. So obviously, cost of living in Germany were completely different than what it is right now in London. So mind you, we are talking about living in London and not in other parts of the UK. I know in the other parts of the UK, it's comparatively cheaper to rent an apartment or a house. That's why we have specifically said we are going to cover cost of living in London.
Now, without further ado, let's get
right into it. So Harshita, let's talk about the biggest bracket of our expenses. So which is the first one, the beast, which is called rent. So as we said earlier as well, we moved from Germany to the UK and our rent has doubled in London. For a 2-bedroom apartment with parking, you can expect to pay around 1800 to 2200. Depending on which zone you are living in. So we are living in zone 2, zone 3 in between. So we are spending around 2000 plus for our rent, but it depends on you which zone you prefer. So I would suggest on an average you budget around 1800 to 1900 GBP for rent.
And if you are living in a 1 BHK or a 3 BHK, the cost will accordingly either decrease or increase. And similarly, as Vivek said, London is made up of different zones starting from the center of the city. So the farther you move away from the center of London, that is zone 1, the rent prices will decrease.
And with parking, it might cost you 100 quids more. So I would suggest budget 1900 for your rent. So Harshita, now let's move on to utilities. So within utilities, you have water, you have electricity, you have gas, and not to forget, council tax. What is council tax, Harshita?
This is something which is quite unique for UK. For maintaining the area where you live in, you have to pay a certain amount of money to the council, which maintains that borough or that region where you are living. So everyone will have to pay according to the area or the borough where they are living, and it usually ranges between 100 to 200.
So let's look at how much we pay for our utilities. For gas, we pay around 40 pounds. For water, around 33. Electricity, 48 quids. Phone, 20 pounds. Internet, 36. And council tax, around 130 pounds. Now let's talk about groceries. So it's one of the bigger expenses as well. So how much do we pay for groceries? In London, there are many shops where you can shop around for groceries. You can go to Sainsbury's, which is very famous, Morrison's, and there are so many others. And for Indian groceries, we go to Southall, and then you will find many stores out there.
You can also order groceries online, but there's a certain delivery charge that might apply, or a certain minimum amount that you have to order for. So usually we go to the shop and order, but sometimes when we can't and we are really busy making videos for you guys or working, then we order online as well. For us, the groceries, we usually do it at a 7 to 10 day frequency, and the bill usually comes around 70 to 80 pounds. So roughly, if I would say a monthly figure, it would be somewhere between 200 to 250 or 225 on an average pounds per month. Everything that we are telling in this video is for a couple.
Now we have talked about all the utilities, groceries, rent, etc. So now we'll come to a little bit of undisciplined expenses where it's very much variable. So we take a lot of takeaways. We order so much from Deliveroo, but we are trying to control. But I can imagine if you are a working professional and both of you are working, so you might end up ordering a lot. So on an average, we spend around 200 pounds for takeaways in a month. For example, if you order one, say you will end up ordering for above 25 pounds. That's when you get free delivery. So this is what we do. So 2 or 3 times in a week. So you will end up around 150 to 200 and might exceed slightly.
So you can, basis how many times you order in a month, please try to calculate for yourself. We are telling you about our budget. If you do not order that much takeaways, then this cost should be lesser for you.
Now let's talk about entertainment. So I take out Harshita on a lot of dates. Ask her.
I also take you.
She also takes me out, and we go for movies. 20 to 25 per date, a movie date if you are going outside.
If you order food, 30 pounds for one outing, probably.
Yeah.
And if you go to a nice restaurant, then it might be 50 pounds, 40 pounds.
Depends,
60 pounds,
40 to 50 pounds. Depends on which restaurant you go to. You can also find cheaper places. Like, for example, when we want to eat Indian food on a budget, so we go to Southall, where you get quality food at a lesser
lower
price.
But let's say if you're going to fine dining restaurant, and there are
Yeah.
many such restaurants in London, there's a vast variety, then obviously you'll have to pay much more. That is reserved for special occasions like anniversaries,
Yeah.
birthday celebrations and stuff like that.
So we budget around £130 for our entertainment and dates. Now let us go to subscriptions. So we all have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and sometimes people have Spotify, depends on what you have, YouTube Premium, and not to forget TV license. So what exactly is TV license? So TV license is the yearly fee which you have to give to the government if you are watching something live stream. So for example, if you're watching live stream match or live news or anything that's live, so if you calculate all those subscriptions together, it might cost you around 40 to 45 pounds for subscriptions alone. Now let's not forget a smaller chunk of our budget which goes in personal care. So when we talk about personal care, it could be haircut, etc., all those
Spas,
things,
massages,
anything that
grooming related
Yeah.
activities, or anything where you want to spend. We usually do not spend that much.
We generally calculate around 30 pounds for personal care. Okay, now we have covered everything else other than the major part, which is commuting. So in London, you commute a lot, so either by tube or by car. So I have a car which I use sometimes to go to office. We are factoring our EMIs of the car, insurance, and also petrol bill. So budget around 200 to 300 for EMIs for a car, and for insurance, if you're new, it can be relatively expensive for you. So budget 110, 120 for your insurance and 30 to 40 for your petrol per month.
Because we also use public transportation a lot. You cannot travel everywhere in London with car because parking is a big issue, which you will also see. But public transportation is really good. The connections are really good. So either buses or trains or tubes, underground, overground will be there. So how much should one budget for that?
Well, I go to zone 6 for work. So for me, one time commute to and fro, it costs around 21 pounds. So it might be different for you if you just commute from, let's say, zone 2 to zone 4. So you can budget around 50 pounds for public transport.
I think that's quite less.
Because we are not going to office, we are staying home.
If public transportation is your main mode of transportation, I would say budget anywhere between 100, 150. Let's say if you're using it every day, it's quite reasonable.
But we have cars, so it depends. Like if you can take this budget from your car to a public transport. So the last two expenses, they are generally not your monthly expenses, but you do incur it on a yearly basis. So for example, you do take a vacation, and it would not be wise for you to not plan. Planning is everything. So we do plan it in our budget and we calculate it monthly. So for example, we go to India yearly and we also try to take a vacation other than our India trip. So we do plan for it. We plan around 200 per month for our vacation, and also we buy gifts, we do a little bit of shopping, and we plan 150 pounds for gifts and shopping. So let's add up all the expenses. Harshita, please do the honors.
As you can see on the screen as well, as a couple, we would suggest to budget around 3,500 British pounds if you want to live a comfortable life. You may end up spending a bit lesser or a bit higher depending on how lavish your lifestyle is and how much you can save. But for us, 3,500 is something that we would suggest as cost of living in a city like London in 2022 for a comfortable lifestyle. But Vivek, an important point which we haven't covered here. So when we are talking about 3,500 British pounds per month, that is the cost. But how much do you need to earn as a couple to be able to satisfy this kind of a cost?
Well, for this, we have to make a separate video, Harshita. I think we have to make a video about salaries in London.
And how much you can earn as a couple or as a single person in London. What are the different job types? How much money can you make to live this kind of life? So we will cover that in one of our next videos and post any queries relating to that or any other point about studies, work, life in UK or Germany in general on our channel. Follow us on Instagram, and we will now see you in our next video.
Bye.
Bye.